Welcome to She Can't Do That. Today we have Kelley. And Taryn, what does Kelley do?
Well, I wrote a little something about Kelley.
Oh, go.
All right. Driven by a personal mission to heal through food, something we're passionate about, Kelley Scanlin founded Lark Farm in 2015 and Purely Sprouted in 2023 to craft nourishing, better-for-you snacks made with real, simple ingredients. With a background in sales, marketing, and real estate, wow, she's a go-getter.
Mm-hmm.
Kelley now leads a passionate team making delicious snacks and supporting fellow founders through thoughtful food manufacturing. Welcome, Kelley.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kelley. So with that opener, I heard already that there was a reason why you founded all these companies. A personal reason. What was the reason why you founded this company?
Well, I found myself back in my hometown of Ojai back in, I moved back to my hometown in about 2010 after I went through a divorce and brought my kids as a single mom back to my town. I was working there and back in connection with my family. And I started developing just some inflammation in my joints. And I had always had joint issues in my knees and other joints, but I really had never been able to figure out why I was having various pains. And so I was talking to it one day with a friend of mine who is a personal trainer, and she was saying, you might want to start thinking about what you're eating. That could be causing inflammation in your joints. And so she introduced me to a program called the Whole 30. And the Whole 30 was a program that was created to help people eliminate foods from their diet to try to better understand what could be causing problems in their body. And it takes you through a process where for 30 days you eliminate all the things that are really yummy.
Wow. Yeah.
Like wine and sugars. And
that would be hard.
Wine and chocolate.
Yeah.
That was my dinner last night. Wine, cheese, and chocolate.
A friend of mine did that too, and it sounded very intense and very strict.
To do it right is very strict. You basically eliminate all the really good stuff, the breads, etc., and you end up though with a body that is very clean and ready for some experimentation. And then what they do is they teach you to add back in various different food groups like dairy, let's say, or grains, and give your body a chance to see how it feels when you're eating those. And what I loved about the process was that it was me deciding what my body needed and not being told by the media or what I should or shouldn't be eating.
Yeah.
I loved that concept. And through the process, I found that grains and oats were the most inflammatory for my body.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
What was the change that happened in your body that helped you realize that?
Well, I generally feel it in my knees mostly. And so in my knees and my legs. And I remember being a young girl and just crying in the middle of the night because my knees, my legs hurt so bad. And over all the years, I just learned to deal with it, but it was just really bad at this point in my life, and I was just really trying to solve it. And so when I knew that I was onto something is when the inflammation in my knees and my legs weren't hurting in the middle of the night. They weren't waking
And let
up.
me guess, you went to a lot of doctors and nobody ever asked you about your diet.
No, never,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
And they, in fact, they say eat more whole grains.
Oh,
No.
Right? Yes, which is what they always say. Or they do blood tests, but never really talk to you about these more holistic approaches. So,
So what were you eating before? Were you in generally saying you were healthy?
I was healthy, but I wasn't I just really didn't have a good sense of what I was putting in my body. Like I would eat, but I guess normal people probably eat. I didn't eat a lot of junk food because I've always had to work on my weight, so I was already very conscious of what I was eating. But I really had never thought about eliminating a whole food group, especially bread, because I loved bread.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so good.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh my God, I cannot even imagine not eating bread and pasta and all these. It's like my favorite food in the world too.
It's scary to think of eliminating it.
Why do you think, is there something specific about the bread that you ate, or is it in general that it was just bad for you? Or is it like we hear a lot of times that people have, for example, a gluten intolerant in America, but they don't have it in Europe. Mm-hmm. Is there something specific about these grains in America that didn't sit with you?
I haven't tested it between breads here in the United States versus in another country. I have read quite a bit about that we do grow and produce grains here differently than in other countries. And some other countries have more strict rules around how they grow their food. But I get asked a lot, especially when I was starting at the farmer's market, which is how I started my business. I would have people come up to me and say, well, why do I need to eliminate grains? And I would always say, I don't know that you do need to eliminate grains. I never wanted to be somebody that would be touting that that's the right lifestyle.
Right.
In fact, I'm the opposite because I found this through my own trial and error from my body. And so I think it's really a personal journey for everybody to try to determine what makes them feel their best, which is really what this is about, which the whole journey is about.
So let's go back to that moment where you eliminated specific foods and you introduced them again into your diet, and then you figured out that specific foods were causing inflammation. Which exactly were those?
It was mostly oats and grains, and of course, sugar.
Oh, damn it. Don't take sugar.
I know. I've already taken away now wine, sugar, and bread. What is there to live for?
We have to eat air.
I said the other day, too, why is all the most delicious stuff the worst for you? Can we not just turn this around, that the most healthy things are the most delicious? It's
I think she might have an answer for you.
That's true.
I'm trying to answer that.
That's true. I haven't tried.
That is a whole topic in and of itself. Which is something I'd be happy, to talk more about. But really, when you understand the food system in America, you will come to understand there are reasons why the food that is the most delicious and the most accessible is the cheapest. There are reasons for it, and it's quite interesting. It really takes you down a journey of looking at the food system in America. And I don't know if you know this, but there is this perfect formulation that is known by food scientists, which is a perfect ratio of fat to salt. And it's been written about many times and is perfected in a food like a Dorito because there it's really developed almost in a lab and to get that perfect ratio. And what the ratio does is it makes you crave it and it never satiates you. And so you always want more. So there's a reason why you can eat a whole bag of Doritos and still want more, because it's been engineered to make you want to eat more and never feel great. And that's where food science is. That's because we're in America. It's the business of making money.
Right.
And
that's horrible.
Yeah, but
they're hijacking
just saying this is
our
horrible.
minds through our stomachs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they're giving us serving options of one serving is 4 chips. And you're like, exactly, that nobody's able to just eat 4 chips.
Yeah.
Like, if I
Exactly.
open this bag, I'm going to finish this
The
bag.
whole thing, and then go buy another one.
And now I know it's scientifically proven why I would want to do that.
Right.
So did you have an awakening around all that and you were like, I need to make a change here. This is not okay.
Well, it was actually even more sort of humble than that. I just really liked cereal and granola for breakfast. And I thought, oh my gosh, like how you were feeling when we were talking about wine and bread. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't have my breakfast. So what am I going to eat for breakfast?
Right.
And it really became just a problem to solve. And I started reading about nutrition and started understanding what I might want to be putting in my body and playing in my kitchen. I'm kind of a mad scientist in my kitchen, just throwing things together, and came up with these concoctions and thought, oh, these are pretty good, and started sharing them with friends. I was playing a lot of tennis at the time, and I started sharing it with my tennis teams, and people were liking it. And so I just went down to our local farmer's market and pitched a tent and called myself the Ojai Granola Girl, which is fitting because I'm from Ojai and I was selling granola.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know what to call the company at first, and I called the lady that runs the farmer's market and I said, I'd like to come and sell my granola at the farmer's market. And she said, well, that will work because the previous granola girl isn't here anymore.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to call myself the granola girl.
Yes.
That's so cute.
It's so cute.
I loved the name, but I went, ultimately when the business started gaining some traction, I went to Trademark it, and there was already somebody with a trademark for Granola Girl for granola. So I had to change the name, but I always liked that.
That is cute.
So what's different about you obviously don't have regular oats in it.
Right. So
What did you, I would have thought this is the main ingredients in a granola. What do you do when you can't have oats then? What's in
nuts
there?
and seeds. Nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds are amazing powerhouses. No matter what you read nutrition-wise, they talk about how various different nuts and seeds are so full of great enzymes and so good for your brain. And so what we did is I took nuts and seeds, and I learned about a process called sprouting. And so sprouting is where you soak the nuts and seeds in a brine, and then you dry them, and then you can eat them or use them in recipes. And being that I was starting to really get into this health thing, I decided I would sprout my nuts and seeds. One of the things that happens when you do that is it breaks down acids in the nuts and seeds, which cause inflammation in your body. So a lot of people don't know this, but when a nut or a seed is growing, like Mother Nature is this total badass and gave them all of this great protection because the idea is they need to germinate. And so she gave him a shell and gave nuts and seeds like a coating on them. And they carry this all the way through to germination. And then when germination happens, they break down all these enzymes. Well, we pick them and eat them before they totally go through this process. And so they still have these protective coatings. So anyway, what sprouting does is it naturally just finishes germination and makes them easier for your body to digest. So I took these sprouted nuts and seeds and I mixed them with really other wholesome ingredients, just like pure maple syrup and no preservatives, nothing artificial, fruits, dried fruits, and turned them into my version of a granola. So
that sounds to me like a lot of knowledge that you had to acquire to figure all of this out. How long did it take you from the moment where you were like, okay, I figured out what's not good for me, but I do not want to get rid of my granola in the morning, till you had something that was replacing your granola? How long was this? Because it sounds like you have a knowledge about every little tiny piece that's in your food. And that sounds like a lot of like research and learning and all these things.
It wasn't that long, really. I think I just sort of started poking in, learning about it, and just playing, and then liked what I had come up with. And so I don't know exactly how all that information was gathered, but I think it was really a couple of 2 or 3 months after. I was starting the Whole 30 in September of 2014, and I had already started selling at the farmer's market in like November.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Did you ever,
You're amazing.
like, did you ever from the beginning thought, okay, this product is obviously not on the market, so I have to make it myself? Did you from the beginning were like, there's a business opportunity in here, or was this just surely for yourself to have breakfast?
It really started as truly for me for breakfast. And I never thought of myself as entrepreneurial, but I think I am, because I find myself, if I have an idea or something comes to me, I think I'm immediately thinking how I can, share it with more people. But I didn't set out to start a business. It was really just almost a hobby, and just going to the farmer's market with my children, and they would help me. My son is an artist, and he would come with his, he was at the time about 12. He would come with some chalk and some paints and things, and he would do fun things with children, paint their faces, and we would just have fun at the farmer's market every Sunday.
Yeah.
And Ojai is such a beautiful, beautiful place. It's a gorgeous little valley, and people have been coming there for many, many years to heal their spirits and their bodies in this incredible valley. And we have a lovely, wonderful resort there, the Ojai Valley Inn, and it brings a lot of folks from out of town, and they would come to the farmers markets on Saturday or Sundays when they were visiting the Ojai Valley Inn, and then they would end up at our booth, and they would try our products and then love them, and then go home and want to order them. And so that's kind of how the business started initially, but it was not my intention to start it and turn it into a company.
That is so interesting. We've been talking to different people who have very successful businesses now, and I feel like most of their businesses started out of just like a necessity and not with the bigger picture in mind. I make this a big company. And everybody said, if I would have planned that, I would have not even started it, because it would have been overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been like, oh my God, I need all these products, and I need a warehouse, and I need all this advertisement, and that costs all so much money, and I don't even have that. But if it like naturally happens
From a passion.
Yeah, from a passion, from a necessity.
Yeah.
It's just like you add like just a little bit. You do it in your kitchen first, and you tell your friends about it, and then you go to the farmer's market, and then you're going to tell us now what happened then. But it's like,
right,
you don't have this big, and I think that's what's stopping a lot of people from even starting, is this like being overwhelmed with what it could be at some point. Like, as I just said, I need this amount of product, and I need a website, and I need a distributor, and I need this and this. This is too much. I'm not even going to start it.
Right, it is. And I have mixed emotions about it, because I've been talking a lot lately to entrepreneurial groups about, really, if I had to go back in time, I might think a bit more about, where do I really want to end up, and why do I want to end up there? Because I guess I really pushed in the beginning to really make this happen when it started to get some sense that maybe I could make something out of it. But the path that I took was a hard path. And the path of an entrepreneur can be very, very difficult and stressful. And what I really am trying to share with folks now that have an idea is start with the end in mind. That's my newest way to try to describe what I think that I want to share with others, is that if you start with the end in mind, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your days to look like? Mm-hmm. How do you want to be living your life? And you work backwards from that, because you can easily find yourself as an entrepreneur into a life that you may or may not want to be in. Like, for instance, I started with these very, I would say humble, just ideas about healing my body and making granola in my kitchen with my children. And now here I am, completely worlds away from that, as a CEO running a business, raising capital, running a manufacturing operations, running the marketing, the sales, and it's just a completely different look at my life. And I love my life. I love what I'm doing right now. But I have met many people who have found themselves on this journey and then woken up and thought, this is nothing like what I envisioned it would be. And so I think it's always really great to start with the end in mind of what you want your days to be like, and then work backwards from there.
That's interesting, because that kind of contradicts what I just said.
No, but I think it is in line too, because it's not about the business end game. It's looking at your life end game.
It is. It's. There are two paths to look at it.
Yeah.
One is that if you don't know necessarily what you're getting into, then you will just go full speed ahead. And that is one way. That's certainly the way that I did it. But I think that and you can, through that process, have wonderful experiences that would never have if you hadn't have done that. So I think that's a great point too. But I also think that you at least have to built in checkpoints along the way to make sure that where you're taking it is where you really want it to go. And I've met a lot of other founders who, set out, I want to have my products on every shelf, on every grocery store, but they really don't know what that means. They don't understand what that means to them personally, financially, and so then they just keep pushing and pushing, and then they get in so deep, and then it's really hard to get out. So I think that it's some balance maybe of those two perspectives on it.
And you said your path, especially at the beginning, was very hard. What was hard about it? What would you change if you could go back?
Well, I had never come from any kind of a food production background. I hadn't worked in a food production company. I didn't know about food safety. I didn't know about certifications. I didn't understand efficiencies of manufacturing. I didn't know recipe development. I didn't know anything. And I just had these recipes that I wanted to share. And so what started was this path. And I like to always say that I'm not really particularly good at one thing, but I think the thing I'm good at is problem solving. And so what I found myself in was just a series of problems that were arising that I was just solving. And so through that process, I found it was hard because I would just get one problem solved and a new one, would come up.
Right.
So, kind of sounds like life,
It
right?
is life.
It's just like you just get the one thing figured out, and there comes the next one.
Five more come in.
That's a very good skill to have.
If you're going to be good at one thing,
problem solving is the thing you want to be good at. Yes.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the key to life right there. Well, so I was on this journey, and I didn't want to get into manufacturing. So I ended up finding a co-packer in our industry that's somebody that'll make your products for you. And he was up in Oregon and had a lot of knowledge about the types of products I wanted to make, and had come referred to me. And so we started with this man. I needed to buy some equipment and put it up in Oregon. And he started making our products. We were buying things, and he was working with us. We went up to see him and see his facility. And it was about a month or two after I started working with him, and I got this very suspicious email.
Oh.
And it was from somebody that said, the man you're working with is not who he appears to be.
Oh, geez.
Oh, no.
Heart sink.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. So I thought, that's weird. I wonder what they're talking about. And it was
Did you give him a lot of money at that point already?
we hadn't given him a ton, but we
Okay.
had started to. And about that same time, he had called us and said that he was able to get some cashews at a really good discount, but we were going to have to buy a whole bunch of cashews and to get this price. And so I talked it over with my family, and we decided, well, it sounds like we could get a good deal on these cashews. So we paid a fair amount of money for these cashews. And then I got this email, and then come to find out the man that we were working with was a complete fraud.
No.
And what he was doing, not just to us, but there was a peanut butter company that he was supposedly making peanut butter for. He would come up with these schemes saying he could get good deals on ingredients, and then he would take your money. And then when you wanted to produce something, he would go to the Costco and buy enough to make whatever you wanted to make and make you enough to keep you happy. And then he would just, and then sometimes he wouldn't deliver. Anyway, no, you want to know? Do you want to know what's the worst? So disheartening. He literally had no assets. He had a rundown truck. He lived in some insurance above some insurance office on like a couch or something. He had nothing. Any money he had, he stuffed, I think, under his mattress.
Oh, so you couldn't get anything
We couldn't get
back.
anything from him. And we actually had a loss. We tried and we got a lawyer. And at some point, the lawyer was like, you're going to have to spend so much money to chase this man that...
And even if you got him, you're not going to get anything because this man doesn't have anything.
He cleaned out his bank account before we got there. So with the courts said that we could have what's in his bank account, and where there was nothing in there. So he's walking around out there just doing
Probably
his thing,
doing-
calling it to others.
Yeah.
Oh,
doing it
that's so
again,
disheartening,
over and
though.
over.
Yeah. So that was, we went up, we literally drove up to Oregon and got our equipment and brought it back to Ojai, put
Good
it
for
in
you.
my garage.
Yeah.
My boyfriend, he basically hooked it up, this special equipment we had in my garage, and we did it there for a couple of, maybe like a month or two until I found a little place to start making it myself. But
How do you trust people
I know, it's
after
just
that? Because you
insane.
have to at some point, right? I mean, you can't do it all yourself.
it's really hard. It's hard after you get burned like that. And it set me on this path of where I won't trust anybody else to make my product. But that's where the journey got really hard, because then I just got immersed into this world of, oh, how do I make this at scale? And how, I got to get employees, and I have to get, more equipment, and, all of these things, and really just building it from the ground up. I mean, in the early days, it was hysterical because my parents, who are, well, my dad just turned 90, but I guess at the time, he was in his 80s. He and my mom, they were such a part of the journey. Like, my mom would literally order the nuts. They would come to her house. She would soak them in this big pot, that she had. And then we had these little dehydrators. She would put them on these little dehydrators and dry them. And then my dad would bring them over in these like buckets over to my house. I would make the granola and then and cook it and everything. And then my dad would come back and pick it up. And then he and my mom would sit in front of the TV on Saturday nights and hand fill these little bags of granola for the farmer's market while they watched TV. They had their little TV trays and their little scales, and they would just, that's
a family affair.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's like the original family business.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah.
So how did it go from the farmer's market?
So after I brought the equipment back to Ojai and started working on that, we found a little space. It was literally about 200 square feet, which is nothing. And we set up shop in this little place, and we started the farmer's market. And I was in there for a year, before I moved to my next factory. But during that time, we were at the farmer's market, and I had a gal come by from Whole Foods, and she was what was called a forager. And
A forager.
yeah, her name is Monica, and she's amazing. Monica, if you ever hear this, I love you. She worked for Whole Foods, and she was out looking for brands to bring into Whole Foods. And so she really helped me get into Whole Foods. And we got into Whole Foods in that first little tiny manufacturing space.
That's like the dream story. I mean, if you were to think it through and say what you want, that's what people would want.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was really great. And it's great that Whole Foods had these foragers that go out to farmers markets and place and look for really innovative products and then bring them in. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And I remember going up to, I didn't know anything about anything. And so I had these products. I wanted to get into this little grocery store, like a little whole natural food store in Montecito Natural Foods. And I remember I didn't even have any boxes like to put my products in. And so I literally took them up in, like, you know, if you're going to mail something to someone, like the USPS little mail boxes. I remember I took my products in those little US mail products up to her to, you know, there was no presentation, nothing. It was just like, here's my products in this, you know, mailbox. So a lot of just learnings along the way to get to where we are now. But that, I have to tell you, that first place, oh my gosh, that first little manufacturing place we had was so funny, because it literally, the only sink it had in it was like, if you've worked in an office and they have a little coffee sink, you know, where you make it's a little like square. And so my boyfriend, he's like MacGyver. He like just went to Home Depot. He got me this like washing sink that was I don't know, made of plastic or something. I think it cost us like $40. And he put it in this little kitchen area, and he then got this pump that would pump water from that, and it would pump, and they had put this pipe up the wall and across another wall and down another wall, and it would ultimately end up in this little sink. And so we did like washed all these huge trays and all of this stuff through this funny little mechanism that he had rigged. And then if an almond or something got stuck in the sink, you know, then the whole thing would overflow. And I mean, it was just...
I really love already that none of these things stopped you from doing what you're doing. There were like so many little stops already in your story where you could have just said, you know what, leave me alone. I'm like doing this little granola for myself so my knees stop hurting, and that's it.
And
like,
that's it.
I'm not going to deal with all of this stuff, like the fraud and the like getting this all done in a way too little sink. And like, why did you keep going?
That is a great question.
She's like, I'm asking myself
why did I keep
day.
going?
Why am I doing this?
I just think I'm just stubborn as stubborn can be, and I just had, at this point, I just really had it. At this point, it was becoming a dream that I really wanted to see to fruition. I really felt that I had something there. And so I just kept pushing. And I'm just like that. I'm a Taurus, and we're kind of strong-headed. And I just kind of get something in my mind and go. So that's really pretty much. And I really was passionate about the food in this country and how bad it is for you. I really wanted to do something that would be so good to have out there, and so make people's lives better. So I always just really wanted to be able to do something to make people, you know, in some way have a better life or feel better about themselves. The world's so negative, right? Especially now.
Yeah.
And I just want people to feel their best, whatever that is for them.
Do you feel like you've gotten to that place? You feel like you've kind of made it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel that I'm really proud of what we've built, and I'm really proud of the products that we have. And we've been able to get products to the shelf without all the preservatives and all of the really bad things. They're not the cheapest products, but in order to make them cheap, I'd have to change all my values.
Right.
And I just can't do that. And so it's unfortunate that the way that I make the products end up costing people more money, but there's a reason for it. And I don't think unless you really understand the food industry that you could really have an understanding of, if I make something and it costs me $2 to make it, and that's $2 to buy the ingredients, hire all the people, put it in a bag, everything, have my whole facility. I mean, everything that goes into making that, if I make it for $2, it's going to end up on the shelf for almost $10 by all the people that touch it, all the distributors and the grocery stores and everybody making money along the way. It's going to be $10. So in order for me to make something that's going to be really, really inexpensive, I have to cut so much cost. And that is what one of the problems are with the food in the country.
So you can imagine if you get a burger and a drink for $1 at a fast food restaurant, you can imagine how much crap is in there. Or like just 100% crap is in there.
Yeah.
That's cheap and horrible for you, which is so sad that it's cheap to be unhealthy.
Yes.
And more expensive if you want to be healthy, which you should be, but then you have to spend some money, which feel like nobody has anymore.
I know. Well, and it's true, and then that's really a quandary. And so I think it's a little bit like I had a friend who was a really good chef, and she would say with her meal, you have to figure out what your signature foods are that you're going to have when you're making a meal. So what do you have to make, and then what can you buy to supplement. So, your main course is going to be something you want to make because that's going to be your flagship, but maybe something else on the side, you can buy that side. You don't have to make everything from scratch. And I kind of take that into thinking about foods and groceries is that, everybody has foods that are unhealthy. I mean, we all have to live our lives. There's times where you're going to have things, and there's going to be times when you're going to eat things that are cheap. But it's that balance in your life, and it's finding those things that don't work for your body and that you want to invest in buying the best of, and then and just balancing those things out, because that's really what it's all about, right?
Yeah,
it's a balancing act.
Yeah. So what were your what were your products when you started at the farmers market? Did you have like one granola, or did you have like 5 different ones with different ingredients? What did you start out?
I started with my very first was a vanilla cinnamon granola.
Oh my God.
And what's funny is over the years I've innovated so much, and that is still my number one seller. And it turns out, I didn't know it at the time, but vanilla cinnamon, or that combination, is always the best-selling flavor. If you find in the grocery store anything vanilla or sort of that original kind of cinnamony flavor is the best-selling for breakfast foods. But I started with that, and then I had a double chocolate cherry, which I love.
Oh my God!
And then I had a berry. We called it Berrylicious, and we still have those 3 products today. So that's what we started with. And then I got into a phase where I started trying to do some savory granolas, kind of. I had a lot of people asking for no sugar. And so I started playing around with some more savory items, and those didn't really turn out that well. I had people that loved them, but not a big enough group of people. So we've stayed with more of the more traditional things. But it was funny, in that little area that I was telling you about where we had our very first little production facility, we were trying to figure out how to mix all of our products, because now we were starting to make bigger batches. And first, I think the very first time I met my boyfriend, when he came over after our first date, I put him to work like stirring in my kitchen with a bowl.
That's a good
if you want to be with me, that's what it's going to be like.
He talks about his shit. He says, I walk and she hands me a bowl. Stir.
Make yourself useful.
Yeah. So we started from there, and then we went to these bigger tubs, and now we were starting to have like much bigger things. And so we looked at different ideas. And so again, Mike, my boyfriend, always has these creative ideas. And he says, well, God, Kelley, you know what you really need is you need like a cement mixer. And I said, I'm not gonna mix my granola in a cement mixer. And then he's like, well, I don't know. It's like that tumbling. I think that could really work. And I was like, I don't know about that. So then that night I got on Google, and I was like, oh, is there like a cement mixer for food? And there is. This company called Cushland makes a cement mixer, but it's food grade for foods.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like nothing. It was like $500. So I order it and it shows up. It has like hardly any instructions, and it has like all these little motor and these parts. And I'm like, I have no idea how to put this thing together. So I call my dad and I was like, hey, you want to help me figure out how to put together this cement mixer? My dad's hysterical. So he comes down and we're trying to put this thing together, and we get it put together. And he's like, okay, let's fire it up, see if it works. So he turns it on. And it's like doing its tumbling thing. And I go, okay, I'll throw some stuff in here. So I throw in some almonds. I throw in some chocolate. I throw in like coconut. I don't know, whatever I've got laying around. And throw it all in there and tumble it up. Throw in some maple syrup. And then we stop it and take a little bit out. And I go, you want to taste it? He goes, yeah. And I go, okay. And then we taste it. We're like, oh my God, that's so good. And that's been like our number one selling trail mix is this our sweet and salty trail mix that we just made by just throwing things in there.
Oh my God.
Anyway, that was
there again.
That's such
by
a good
accident.
story.
By accident.
Something happened by accident, and it just evolved into this huge thing.
So what's the full spectrum of your products now, and where can we find your products?
Well, we still have the Lark Farm granola. We have 5 flavors, and they are the granolas that don't have the grains. They're all USDA organic certified. So everything in there is certified. And those you can find at Whole Foods in Southern California. There's some at Air One. There's 1 or 2 of the flavors at Sprouts. And then we have they're throughout retailers all over the United States. We have on our website, we have a little find us place where you can find stores that sell it. But all over Southern California, like Lazy Acres and all these types of places. And then and those are our granolas. And then we also have our trail mix. And they'll be found at all those places. Oh, and on Amazon too. And then we have, what happened is because those were made with sprouted nuts and seeds, I started getting a lot of requests for people saying, hey, can you sell just the sprouted nuts and seeds? And so I thought, well, I don't see why we couldn't. So I just had our designer like mock up a bag, and I just, started putting these nuts and seeds up for sale on our website, and they've gone crazy. And now they're on Amazon, and it's already over $1 million business. Just those little nuts and seeds, just plain nuts and seeds with nothing on them. That business alone, and now that business is starting to really grow. So those are available. It's some very just mostly on our website, Amazon, and on in some grocery stores like Air One. And in fact, I just saw a really cool display that Air One has of like a whole, we call it an end cap. It's the end of an aisle, and it's just like a whole wall of our our Lark Farm sprouted nuts and seeds that are just right there. So that's very cool. And then what happened was in 2023, we were seeing such a great success with the sprouted nuts and seeds. We decided to pivot and make a whole snack line around just using our sprouted nuts and seeds. And so I made it non-GMO, but it's not organic. And that was because we were trying to get our snacks to be a little bit more affordable, but still have a lot of the values that I have the most. And so we called that under, we named that under another brand. I called it Purely Sprouted.
Okay.
And those are available at Sprouts nationally. There's a lot of retailers. We have an online store and Amazon. And so, so those are our 3 product lines.
What does it mean exactly when you say they're not organic? What's the difference?
They're just not certified organic. So when you have a USDA organic certification, there's a very rigorous process behind the scenes where a certifying body will come in and look at where you buy your nuts and seeds, and are they grown organically, and do they meet all these specifications? And it's quite a rigorous process versus when you are non-GMO, then you're basically stating that your products have not been genetically modified in any way, but they haven't gone through that organic certification process.
And grown organically means mostly like pesticides, or what is the difference between organically grown and not?
Yeah, when you have a crop like nuts and seeds, what happens is that if you haven't been organic, let's say you're an almond farmer and you haven't been growing your almonds organically, there's like a 7-year waiting period that you have to go through where you have to, it's called a transitional crop, where you have to transition your crop away from all the pesticides and things in the soil. And so for 7 years, you have to not use anything and be able to prove that you haven't used any types of pesticides on those crops. And after 7 years, then you can get certified as a certified organic orchard. And you can start selling organic certified. So yeah, it's all pesticides and such.
In the soil.
Do you want to go to that in that direction, or is this would that not going to be profitable anymore then?
Well, for purely sprouted, it was really hard for me, but we really needed to move. We wanted to get something that was more affordable. And so, it was really a hard decision, but we still source from really wonderful farms. And the non-GMO component was, our market research told us that consumers were more interested in not having it genetically modified. They wanted organic, but they didn't want to pay more for it. So, it was kind of like my middle ground there that I found, where I could, feel good about it and feel like it's still a great product without. We made the purely sprouted product to have a lot of fiber and a lot of protein, and it's very low in sugar. But it tastes so good. Like, wait till you taste the apple cinnamon and the orange ginger. It's like, you're not going to believe that it's actually good for you. And it's way better than anything else out there on the market for you, the way we make it and everything. And it's so delicious. So we really made it to be something that you're going to be delighted. I want you to feel delighted when you eat it. Like, not feel bad, not feel guilty, like enjoy your life and enjoy your food and feel like what you're eating is there to make you happy and somehow make your life better. That's my dream.
I'm very excited to try it. We already agreed we're not going to do it right now because it would be a little bit too crunchy for our listener. Exactly.
Yeah.
And some people are very, very allergic to chewing sounds. So
you.
So we're not going to put the chewing sounds on the microphone.
You don't like, what is it called?
The chomping.
Something phony, something. Oh, I
people
forgot
actually
the name,
like to listen. The only thing that
people like to listen to that too. Yeah. I know.
The only thing that I like is there's this funny thing on TikTok where there's this huge panda bear and he's eating a carrot or some pumpkin or something, and he's like crunching, and it's so cute. And I'm thinking, why is that cute? But if my boyfriend was doing it, I'd probably run out of the room.
I know. It's the same when you hear like a sheep or a horse eat an apple or a carrot or something. It's like the best sound in the world. Oh my God, if my husband would eat a carrot like that, I would like kick him out of the door.
Or our kids like, eating gum.
Right? Yes. Oh my God.
She can't stand when our daughters, they're chewing gum. It's like the fun thing right now. Sarah's going crazy. She's
I'm
like,
always
if I see your gum, I'm going to throw it out the window.
Do they pop it? I can't stand when it's chewing and it's like pop, pop.
They can't do that yet. But I'm always saying you can chew gum if you keep your mouth shut. Like, do not do the smacking with the gum. Like, that is so not ladylike.
Well, we won't be ladylike when we eat our granola, so we'll do it later.
Yeah.
We do it loud and deliciously.
Well, I hope you feel nourished and enjoy what you eat. So
I'm pretty sure we
Aw.
will. I have a question about. I heard the other day from another company that was trying very, very hard and get in all of these like stores. She's not food. It's not a food company. It's like jewelry and purses and stuff. So it's different kind of companies, but it's the same thing. It's like, oh my God, my goal is to be in whatever Macy's, Target, like all these big stores that you want to be in. And then she heard an interview with Mark Cuban, who said you should not even concentrate on getting into these stores because they're not going to bring you as much money because it costs so much money to be in these stores because they're taking a lot of your profit to have you in the store. Concentrate on building this ginormous online business and send it right from where you produce it to the consumer and cut out everybody in between. Is this the same for food that would make even more sense to have a ginormous online business and not be in Whole Foods and Sprouts and Air One and everywhere to like cut out the middleman?
That's a great question. And I'm give you the unpopular answer, which is it depends. And I go back to what I said in the beginning, which is you have to start with the end in mind. So it depends on why you're growing your business. If you want to get an exit, which is what we call in our business when you grow to a certain size and then somebody purchases you and you have an exit and your shareholders make money through that process, then you need distribution, which is you need to be on the grocery store shelves because somebody's going to buy you because you're on those shelves, because you have distribution.
Right.
You've proven your concept and you're in all these great outlets and they can take your business and put all their resources into it and make it bigger, which is the name of the game for, these companies that would want to buy you. If you're in it to be profitable and you're in it to, make money, then an online environment could be better for you, depending on your product, how much it weighs, and so forth and so much. What I've generally found is it takes an omni-channel approach, which means that there's not just one channel. And it also depends on whether or not you're manufacturing or not. The reason for that is that if you're a manufacturer and you're going just strictly after grocery, you won't make it because you have to cover all your overhead costs of your factory, your employees, your insurance, your everything. And if you're having to pay out all this money to the grocery stores, there's going to be a gap. And so unless you get to be a certain size. And so it's a very complicated answer. And I wouldn't say that there's one right answer. It really depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to just run a company and operate it and not sell it, then, that could possibly be a better route. But it would really shock you, like when there's a major grocery store, well, two recently that we've gotten into, one in the East Coast and one that's national. And most people don't realize this, but when you go on the shelf at a grocery store, they ask for something called free fill. And free fill is you are required to give them one free case of every, what you call SKU, or every product going in. So let's say I had 5 products and I wanted to go into a grocery store that has 400 stores. I have to give a free case for every one of those 400 stores for every one of those products. So when I went to this national retailer recently and launched, it was more than $100,000 to get on the shelf. And what's crazy is they actually charge you back at a higher rate than you would normally sell to them for. So not only is it a free case, that free case is getting charged at a higher number than I would actually sell it to them for. And the worst part is they will not guarantee you that you'll stay on the shelf for any length of time. And if the product doesn't sell, you have to buy it back at a higher price you sold it to them for. So the whole thing,
gosh.
like people have
God.
no idea this industry is so broken.
How do you even get in a store then?
You have to raise money, which is because, like, for instance, a major company, like let's look at Kavita. Kavita is a kombucha company. It came out of Ojai. It grew, and it eventually sold to Pepsi for like $250 million. It was a great exit. They ran negative for, I think, 7 or 8 years. They had to constantly feed it because in order to get all this distribution and grow like this, you have to put so much money into it. And so founders like me who start with this very humble beginning, if you want to go that route, you're going to end up raising money.
Yeah.
And that is something that to me has been, besides running the operations, has been the hardest thing, is you have to put on your face and you have to go out there and you have to meet with all these potential investors, and you have to pitch them and you have to show them your pitch deck and all of these things. And then you have to ask them for money, like their money. And then you have to say, this is why you should believe in me and put your money with me, because I'm going to get this thing to the finish line. And they have to believe in you. And then you have to go and you have to do what you say you're going to do, but then you're probably going to run out of more money. And then you're going to have to raise even more money. And it just keeps going and going and going. So,
Wow.
I mean, I sat with the one of the founders or heads of Kavita in when I was first starting, and he looked at me, and I'll never remember. I was just so like wide-eyed and just knew nothing. And I remember he said, "You will never know stress until you take someone else's money." And boy, was that true. Even though I have the most amazing investors, and they have been like angels that somehow fell into my life, I have to say that the biggest stress that I carry every day is they took money that was theirs, that often was part of their private, wealth, and put it with me and trusted that I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to get them a return on their investment. So this is why I was starting in the beginning, was start with the end in mind, because if you start with this very humble beginning of you just want to eat better, and you take this all the way down the line like I have, you're going to end up not even really as much doing food, but you're going to be a business person raising capital, reporting to shareholders, handling employment issues, all of these types of things. And you have to be ready to go that whole gamut of it as an entrepreneur, because especially in the food industry, these are all the things that you have to think about, that you have to address along the way. So, but
do you like where you're at, or do you regret getting so big?
I love where I am.
Okay,
I
good.
do. I love it. But I will say it's way more than I ever thought I was signing up for. And so I think that's a bit of my mission, is because I think that I think that it's a really tough industry, this food industry. And I think that I've seen it bring down a lot of people. And I just really want people to understand that there's really great, amazing journey in front of you, but you have to want that. And that has to be something that you're signing up for.
Are you helping mentor people on that path now?
Yes. Yeah. There's this really cool program in Ojai called Flourish, run by some entrepreneurs. And they bring in, one of my sons went through it, and they really help various different people that are maybe in like their 20s, or just anybody really who's an entrepreneur, and help them try to really look at their dreams and kind of take them apart and figure out, if that's really what they want. And if so, how can we help them get there? And so I'm becoming a part of that. And I want to do more of that. I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
What's your day-to-day look like?
It's boy, it's just, it's like what we were talking about earlier. It's just every day I say I wake up and I do not know what's waiting for me. I could come in and it could be, an employee issue. It could be one of our machines is down. It could be something really exciting. We heard we got into a new store. It's a lot of conference calls, a lot of finance, a lot of marketing kind of decisions. So I would say I'm on the phone a lot of video calls and those types of things, and speaking, and it's just a whole gamut. It's never boring. Never boring. So
Going to the name of our podcast, which is She Can't Do That, but she did it anyway. Do you think you have it harder in specific situations because you're a woman?
I haven't ever experienced that.
Yes. Second guest who says
Really?
that. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I don't.
It's still that does not outweigh the people who say, "Oh, yes," but you're the second one who said I did not experience
Really?
that, and I think you're the second person in my life that I talk to.
Yeah, I have to say I don't feel like I've ever had that in my career. My career's been really, before I started all of this, I was started with the phone industry. Like I was selling phone systems outside of college. I was literally started my career after college, like walking around business parks selling phone systems. I would get up every day, put on my little pumps and my little dress and go walk around in these selling phone systems. and that's how I started. And I don't know, I've just never felt. And I moved my way all the way up through AT&T, and retired. And I just never felt like being a woman ever held me back from anything. So, but I don't know. I think I've just been fortunate because I know there's a lot of women who have had those experiences. I just haven't ever had one. Or if they were, I wasn't paying attention or listening to them. I was just forging forward. But,
So what's next for you?
for me, well, let's see. We are just continuing to push forward with our brands and get them into more stores and into more people's hands. And then I'm really hoping over the next couple of years that I can move into more of a role of speaking and talking about experiences and helping others find their dreams and helping them really take apart their dreams and understand what it is they really want, and to try to help people to go after that. I think that's going to be my mission outside of work. But I hope to have more balance in my life and just slow down a little bit. Yeah.
Are you interested in selling your company at some point?
Some point, yes. That is what my goal is with my investment team, is to, like I said, get them a return on their investment, but all along the way, keeping my values and making food that heals people and not harms them, and just try to brighten everyone's day. I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. Like I think it's important that everybody is able to feel sad when they want to feel sad and all those things. I don't mean like be happy in this like Pollyanna way, but I do want to add delight, I guess, to people's lives. And
no toxic positivity here.
Yeah.
No.
I don't want that.
Not a friend of that.
Yeah. But like, I think it is valuing kindness and being kind to yourself. Like I have always felt, I used to have for Lark Ellen a saying that said, feed your body, feed your soul. And I just always felt that if you could take care of yourself first, kind of like the oxygen mask in the airplane analogy, if you can take care of yourself, then you can go out into the world and just bring more to the world and have better. But if you're trying to always fix yourself and you have all these pains and aches and you're uncomfortable or whatever, then it's harder to go out into the world and be, that person that is balanced and happy. So I want to help people to get there.
So if somebody listens to this and hears you and would like some advice, can they reach you somewhere?
Of course, absolutely. I talk to people all the time, and I think the best thing to do is just to reach out to me on my through our websites and just say that they'd like to talk to me, and I get those messages forwarded to me, and I talk to people all the time. I'd love to.
We have the websites and everything linked,
we'll share
linked
them
under here.
Yeah,
So,
I think Lark Ellen, just go to larkellenfarm.com or info@larkellenfarm.com will get you to me.
And if you want to feel good, eat Purely Sprouted or Lark Ellen Farm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. This has been lovely talking with you both today. Appreciate what you're doing out there just to get the word about all these badass women that you're talking to.
It's our mission.
That's our mission, right? Exactly. Getting them heard.
Yeah.
making their voices louder.
And you're being badass woman by doing this.
Thank you.
So
We're trying.
I have one question. Where did the name Lark Ellen come from?
Oh, gosh. Okay. I'll try to be brief. But so the bottom line was I was, after Granola Girl was already taken, I went through like this, oh my God, what am I going to call it? And I started like brainstorming all these ideas and driving everybody around me crazy. Like, what do you think of this one? What do you think of that one? And so I've called my dad one day and I had some idea. And he's like, that's a dumb idea. He goes, oh, Kelley, just call it Lark Ellen Farm. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I live on a little half-acre farm on Lark Ellen Avenue. And we call where I live, we call it Lark Ellen. But the best part of the story is this. When I said, oh, that's a good idea. So I went and researched what could Lark Ellen mean? I didn't want to name my company after something I didn't know what it was. So I found out that Lark Ellen was from West Covina. It was a woman. Her name was Ellen. And she was an opera singer at the turn of the century. And this woman was a soprano, and her voice could go so high, she sounded like a bird, like a lark. And so because her name was Ellen, she was nicknamed Lark Ellen. And she had a very humble upbringing, and she would travel the world and sing opera. But what I loved about this whole story was that I read about her, and I guess one night she was leaving a singing nightclub type of thing, and it was turn of the century when there was a lot of orphans, and she was coming out of the nightclub, and there was an orphan there that was begging for food. And she gave all of her night's earnings to this young boy, and it started an entire lifetime of giving to orphans. And she created in West Covina a home called the Lark Ellen School for Boys. And I read stories of these boys or men now that had grown up in one of her orphanages and said it was life-changing. And so she never married or anything. This was her life. She was completely philanthropic. She would sing, and then she would use all of her money to help people that had less. And to me, that touched me on such a deep level. And I thought, if there's anything that I want my company, to represent, it's what was in her heart. And so that's when I really clinched the deal. And I didn't name the company after her. I named it really after my little farm. But her spirit is very much in the company.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That is awesome when you research that and then you find something like that where you're like, oh my God, I can totally relate to this so much and I love this so much. So let's just go for it. But your dad almost sounds German when your dad said like, this is a stupid idea. It's like, that's a very blunt and direct thing to say. Is your dad German?
No, he's Irish.
Okay, well, yeah.
But he's amazing. I mean, I always say I won the parent lottery. Really just the best people.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all up in it.
Yeah, they were all
helping
up in it. And yeah.
Are they still involved in it?
No, they're not. Though I have to say, we did a funny little I don't know if it's an Instagram or TikTok or something, little reel for Lark Ellen, where it was my mom and my dad. And my dad, like I said, just turned 90. My mom's 88. And they eat my granola every day since I started the company, every morning. In fact, they just can't run out. Like if they're going on vacation, they have to come down and get it. And my mom's just a skinny little thing, and she just says, I just need a little cup of it. It's all I need because it's so full of good stuff. She says you don't need, it's like grape nuts, you don't need to pour a whole bowl because it's not going to fill you up. You just need a little bit. And it just satiates them and they just love it. And so they did this really cute picture, this video. I wish I could show it, but it's of my dad, and he's going, I love this stuff.
Oh,
cute. So cute. But they aren't in the business anymore, but my sons are. Both my sons work there now. And so it is really very much still in the family.
I love that.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.